So ladies, thank you so much for taking time to be available to me today. January is Stalking Awareness Month, so I wanted to have a conversation about stalking. I've had the unfortunate experience of navigating an experience of stalking, and the two of you have been supports to me through that as colleagues and clinicians, but also as my friends. So thank you guys for being here to talk about this with me. So, my name is Shalonda Edwards. I'm an independently licensed clinician. I practice in Massachusetts and Connecticut. Um, my practice is called Restorative Health and Wellness, and I can be reached at that website, healingwithrhw.com. You want to introduce yourself, Taminique?
Yes. My name is Tamanique Bird. I am the owner of Planting the Seed Incorporated. I'm a independent clinical social worker in Connecticut and Massachusetts, and you can reach me at plantingtheseedhealing.com. That is our, or info at plantingtheseedhealing.com. That is our email address.
Okay. And Tanya, would you like to introduce yourself as well?
Hi, everyone. Of course, my name is Tanya Dawson, and I'm also a licensed clinical social worker. I'm the owner of private practice Safe Space Talk, and I practice out of Connecticut, New York City, and New Jersey. And I can be reached at heal@safespacetalk.online, as well as my email at heal@safespacetalk.online as well.
And of course, whenever I post this, I'll post all you guys' contact information, so that will be available in the notes as well. So let's get into it. What is stalking? I feel like a lot of times that word is used, like thrown around as like a joke, but we're talking about stalking in a real sense, in a legal sense. Um, Stalking is a pattern of behavior. It's not just one incident of, bothering someone, or sometimes we look up an ex-person we used to date, or sometimes we look up on social media someone from school. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about one-off incidents. We're talking about, patterns of behavior that would cause a reasonable person to be in fear, or behavior that escalates to threatening. Um, so in my circumstance, I had an acquaintance, someone that I knew for a long time. I started a business. The business was immediately pretty successful, which impacted a lot of my relationships, to be honest. But this particular relationship just didn't seem healthy. So I stepped away from the relationship, and for 2 years and 9 months after that, there were all these incidents of me being targeted, my reputation being targeted, the business being targeted. Things would happen like people coming to my practice that were associated with this person, people bringing her up at my practice, which is a really unusual event. And I don't think clinically I've ever experienced anything like that, someone showing up to your job or people showing up repeatedly, kind of seeming like on behalf of one person. There was even an event, which I talked to you guys about, where there was a complaint against my license filed by
Right.
one of these people.
Right.
And then just ongoing, right, ongoing other things. Me realizing someone's not blocked on social media and then blocking them. And then the next day also being contacted at my business um, by people associated with that person. And then there is what I perceived as kind of antagonization with the copying or creating a business that is very similar, using my same logo. Like those are things that I perceive to be kind of antagonistic. Um, so, you guys have anything else to say about what stalking is or isn't, so we can make it clear for people?
Nick, you want to jump in?
Yes. I agree. I definitely agree with everything that you said, Shalonda, on, what stalking is. I mean, stalking can be done obviously in person. You could have someone sitting outside of your home. But nowadays, because we have technology and social media, it's usually more online based interactions, or like you said, Shalonda, people showing up at your business. Um, but that's pretty much my understanding of stalking too.
Right.
Um, Unfortunately, what I would like to add to it is my own experience of stalking, and it can look like when you've clearly set a boundary and thought you've established an understanding of going your separate ways, that a person continues to show up at work, at your doorstep, telephone calls at your workplace. And it can have a really rippling effect on your mental health and your fear for your safety. And a lot of times when you are being stalked, and in the past, I think that society is doing a little bit better, especially with taking it serious with the online presence of stalking. But previously, it was sort of like really nothing that you can do about it. And so to have this conversation and highlight it, I think informing people in ways that they could help themselves and equip themselves to overcome it, I think it would be very instrumental and helpful. Like you said, Shalonda, from a pathological perspective, I think that there is some unresolved, untreated mental health that goes on with individuals who turn around and stalk people, whether it is from a personality perspective, as far as pathology and personality is concerned, or maybe some unresolved trauma. But yes, I definitely believe that clinically there's some pathology behind those behaviors and the behavior of a narcissist. Yeah, it's usually associated with narcissism.
Right, right. Yeah. So I think that's a good example. We're talking about when you clearly either don't have a relationship with someone or set a boundary, or even if you don't communicate directly that I don't want to be in a relationship with you, if you're not calling someone, if you're not spending time with them, if you remove yourself from their
Absolutely.
presence and they can't access you, then generally, healthy people can recognize, okay, this person is pulling away, and they might call, they might send an email, but we're talking again about a pattern of behavior that is excessive, that is concerning, and that would make the average person kind of upset or concerned or impact their safety or mental or emotional health. So there's like four different strategies that stalkers utilize, or different ways in which they interact with your life. There's surveillance, life invasion, interference, and intimidation. So surveillance is obviously, you can remove them from your social media, but then they might make a fake social media. You
Yes.
can block them on social media, but I've seen people do this where, and I've never thought of anything like this before, but I've seen people do things where, like I FaceTime you, Tanya,
Hmm.
Samanique has us blocked. I FaceTime you. You screen share on your phone, and from your social media or from a second social media account you have, you can see Tamanique's things, even though like I might be blocked. Does that make
Right.
sense? It's kind of like I've
Yeah.
never thought of anything like that before, but I've seen people do it.
Right.
And it's just this, again, not responding or not recognizing someone moving away from you or someone not wanting to be in contact with you and continuing to contact them anyways.
I,
Or what happens commonly, sending other people to be in contact with them. So I might not be contacting Tamanique directly, but I might send Tanya to be her friend on social media, um, and to monitor what she's saying. And then she might report back to me, oh, she made a post about this or she made a post about that, which just is, the violation of safety that victims have. So, you guys have anything to say about the surveillance aspect of stalking?
I think that you're spot on. Unfortunately, I've heard about that. Um, Pretty often it is a thing, especially with social media, and um, and witnessing it, you go through it. It was really hard for me as your friend, and knowing who you are as a human being. We met like as perfect strangers online, coincidentally, and and you extended yourself to me, and I'm forever grateful for that. And for as your friend, I felt helpless and hopeless on how to help you. It really impacted the people that care about you, so you didn't suffer through it alone.
Right.
um, I didn't know what to say. I didn't know whether I should tell you to just shut down the social media, but then you'd be given into it. So my advice was to try to just continue to tell you to fight back and persevere and not give into the
Right.
stalking behavior, but
Right.
what you're saying is real. It's real. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, it is not much that you can do about it as far as surveillance online and social media. And I just can't even imagine sending in strangers um, and oppositions or minions, so to speak, to
Right.
engage
Flying
you.
monkeys, they might be called. Right. Um, Tamanique and I were talking about this a little bit earlier about how we have to change our patterns of what we can share on social media, or, tagging, I'm going to this event on this day. Like, I even was telling Tamanique about not posting certain friends or tagging friends and things, because if I tag you in something today, Tanya, then by the end of the week, or today is Saturday. Yeah, by the start of the week, she would have reached out to you if she knew you, even people she hadn't talked to in decades.
Right.
So I would tell people this. I remember telling one friend, "Oh, if I tag you in something, they're going to reach out to you." And the friend who we all went to high school together was like, "No, I haven't talked to her in 20 years. We never have." I tag her in something on social media, and
It
it was
happened.
literally like 48 hours, you know. So when we're talking about surveillance, that is what we mean. Even if, I'm not talking about what I do or where I'm at, if I tag someone in something, reaching out to other people that I'm in community with, which again, just, it shrinks your world and the people and the places that are safe for you.
Absolutely.
So surveillance is like such an easy thing to do with technology now. And it's such an invasive thing because now you can't, you don't want to post anything, you don't want to tag anything, you don't want to talk about your achievements. Not that social media is the best place, but it is a place where we all engage in that. It's like community. So yeah, it just is another incidence of a
It's
place not being
also
safe.
it's also a place where you conduct business. Where for us as therapists, where it's been instrumental in promoting our business and making business connections and
Right.
growing your business.
Mm-hmm.
So, um,
Mm-hmm.
I, I oftentimes find myself wondering how you were navigating and dealing with that, and I felt a great deal of pain and concern for you on
Right.
that level. Hmm.
Right. It certainly has been difficult. It certainly has been difficult. And I appreciate the support from both of you. You guys have helped me stay grounded. I think in situations like this, though, what I've learned now is that you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. If
Yeah.
you don't say anything, then someone just keeps antagonizing you. You
Right.
say anything, and then you're crazy. So there's kind of no right way to engage or to navigate it.
Right.
It just is like, because we're all people and you can keep yourself composed and try and handle things a certain way. But if you know you've removed yourself, if you know you're
Right.
not engaging, if you know
Right.
you've tried to keep track of things and report things appropriately, and none of those avenues are working out, we're all just people. Um, so yeah, what we're talking about, the repeatedly sending people to interact with you, sending people to the practice, which is very wild because you have to do so much paperwork to interact
Hmm.
with us. You have to
Hmm.
give your insurance information, you have to give your address, you have to give me a lot of your information.
Right.
So to be able to encourage other grown adult professionals to engage in that kind of behavior. I mean, some of the other stalking strategies are intimidation, interference, and life invasion. I mean, that is those things. There's no other way to more kind of like invasively attack someone's life than
Right.
by going after their way of supporting themselves,
Right.
both through making me feel uncomfortable at work and through the complaint, the attempted complaint against my license. So yeah,
I mean, you're
Absolutely.
yeah,
right. You're right. I mean, stalking is about control, and not connection. So I think, especially in your situation, it seemed like, she felt entitled to your time, your energy, and in that situation, I mean, it makes it worse because, I mean, being in business, what do you do? Like, you can't shut your business down. You can't shut down, your social media platforms, especially
Right.
on the business level, but you do still have to be able to protect yourself in some kind of way because that's important too.
I'm just proud that you encourage that you fought back because and doing so you encourage others. I'm proud that you did not cave and give in to what the ultimate it seems like the ultimate outcome was desired was to shut you down and stop you in your tracks and just continue your business. You push through and I just encourage you to continue to show up, speak out, ring the alarm, so to speak, and bring attention and awareness to it, to what you're going through, because you definitely inspire people who are going through it to fight back and to endure and withstand all of that has been brought against you. You know.
right, right. Thank you. Yeah, well, when this first started, you experience things in kind of relationships where people kind of, especially when you're younger, where people don't respect your boundaries necessarily, or, they kind of send you something or show up at your job, but it's not a pervasive pattern of behavior, um, was as significant as this. So, it was really difficult to navigate. And, although I feel like I've persevered, I do feel like there was a lot I lost. There are a lot of people, places, and things that no longer feel safe to me. We can talk about a smear campaign, like repeatedly targeting or telling people that I know or am in community with, or repeatedly saying things that are untrue or half true, or just to paint me as not a good person in the community I work in, which is the same community I grew up in. So you're talking to, and also, I believe, trying to find people that I've worked with or that would want to work with me to kind of try and contaminate my reputation.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that has a permanent impact both on where I feel safe and where I feel comfortable, and whom I think is safe as a friend or as a confidant or as a colleague. So I've had to just, I mean, as of recently, because there was a lot of, I kept trying to, I feel like posting about what was happening on my social media might have actually saved my life. And I was trying to, in real time, articulate the behavioral patterns I saw and how this is not healthy behavior. Healthy people are able to respect boundaries. Healthy people certainly would not be surveilling you closely enough that if you block them on social media one day, they can have somebody reach out to you in less than 24 hours the next day. So I was trying to talk about what I was experiencing in real time. And I just think, again, it's the double bind that you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
Right.
So it was a really hard thing to navigate and also really invasive and had a really significant impact on my life. So given the smear campaign and the things I went through, you go to places and you run into people and you're excited to see people, and then you're like, oh, is this person still a good friend of mine, or what have they heard? It just is really,
Mm-hmm.
it's really sad.
Yeah.
So I just have had to remove most people from my social media. I've had to just rethink
Mm-hmm.
what my relationships with people can look like. Because to me, eventually I settled on, if people even think some of these things that are being said about me are a possibility, it kind of makes the relationship not sustainable for me.
Of course.
Because it doesn't, I don't feel safe and I don't feel seen. And I feel
Mm-hmm.
like you might not really know who I am if you think there's even a possibility of some of these things happening. So yeah,
Right.
it's been impactful, and it is hard to navigate, and it's hard to accept that everybody doesn't care about the truth. The truth is not the most important thing. People care about gossip, people care about popularity, and a lot of people
Absolutely.
just, that is what they're interested in. So they'll repeat things even if they know there's not a possibility of it being
Right.
true. Especially, unfortunately, when you are achieving, there's that, like, wanting to pull somebody down kind of thing. So
Right.
I know I said a mouthful. I don't know what you guys have to say about or what you think about any of the things I'm mentioning, but it certainly has been a lot to navigate.
No, I mean, I can imagine. I mean, you had to withdraw from the people that are supports for that were in the past supports for you because you don't know how they're reacting or responding to the way that she's making you look. And that's unfortunate because you shouldn't have to withdraw or be in isolation because she doesn't like you and is taking it, past the dislike to
Right.
stalking.
Right.
Because, it's just it should it shouldn't be that way. It definitely shouldn't be that way. And because it's not like you're doing anything to her, like she needs to live her life just like you're living yours and just leave you alone.
Right. And I think when you were talking, and I didn't want to interrupt, the word safe. And as a trauma informed therapist, I just was like, this is trauma. It's a form of trauma. Um, and and I think the other thing that was coming up for me is like self care beyond what you're doing to protect your business. I hope that you're doing things to allow you to show up in spaces and not be guarded and hypervigilant. Allow your nervous system to be restored and grounded. Allow your shoulders to relax, allow yourself to breathe, to regulate your whole body, because this was an experience. I could not believe what I was witnessing. And as I said today, it was hard for me to watch,
Right.
right? So I think the trauma informed piece comes up for me, and just encouraging you to just take care of yourself, now that you've and I don't want to say one, because it's very scary. Like you said, you look around the corner and you don't know if an attack is going to come, but you you were steadfast in the fight and protecting, your business, your license. And now I just, from clinician to clinician, I want to encourage you to just now take care of yourself, because you
Right.
are a vessel that's used to pour back into others. And you can't pour into others unless you are, you've poured into yourself. It's a lot that you're going to have to overcome from a trauma informed perspective. You just described what sounds like to me PTSD, because you're going into environments and not feeling safe, and like, it's just, I don't even have the words at this point. I cannot imagine.
Right. Yeah, it definitely is traumatizing, and we haven't even gotten to the so we talked a little bit about the isolation and the lack of safety, but um, having people that you've known for a long time, not someone that having people that you've known that you've grown up with since childhood demonstrate this type of betrayal, and then having other people that you've also known for a lifetime not feel called to protect you or not recognizing how significant the behavioral patterns are. It's a lot. And we haven't even also got to the institutional betrayal. So making reports of things and trying to navigate things through the police or the courts, um, and having basically learning that all of those people do not know what an abuser looks like. All of those
Mhm.
people do not recognize there is threatening behavior, even if someone doesn't come out and say directly to you, I'm
Right.
going to harm you. When you are repeatedly threatening or antagonizing someone who is not in contact with you, who very clearly is not speaking to you or engaging with you, and who has made it clear and whom you understand is not speaking to you, when you repeatedly, over a period of years, continue to antagonize that person's business, antagonize their reputation, to speak negatively about them to other people that you know will repeat things, to repeatedly send people to their social media, to repeatedly send people to their job. I
Mhm.
mean, to me, I feel like there's records of things. And
Right.
for to have the experience that I had with the police department and the courts, I mean, it really just it would be laughable if it wasn't so serious. And this is why I think so many people, ultimately people who have stalking relationships with people that have had romantic relationships, why there's so much risk, why 1 in 3 people, I think the statistic is 1 in 3 people who have been stalked by a former partner, if the partner says I'm going to kill you, they do it. It's
Mhm.
like such a high likelihood. So there's stalking in the context of a non-romantic relationship, which I did not know also that acquaintances are the most likely people to stalk you. It's like 42% of people who stalk are acquaintances of someone. I think it's 40% are past romantic
Right.
partners. And then it's smaller percentages that are like a coworker or family member. I think that might be like 8%. And then even a smaller percentage is like people that are unknown. So
Right.
losing your community, losing places that feel safe to you, and then doing what you think is appropriate, keeping documentation, making reports to the police, and have people basically say, well, they didn't threaten to kill you. So,
Right.
No, you're right. I think it's still a lot of stigma around what abusers actually look like and what victims look like. Like they want you to look a certain way, and that's not how it is. I mean, especially again, with a lot of the stalking being on social media, like they're not taking into account like how it messes with someone psychologically over time. It's not
Right.
just the
Right.
physical piece and the physical sense of safety. Like there's also psychological safety that's in play and that is, deteriorated over time. So I think, especially as social workers, we need to be better with the advocacy piece so that, we are educating the community, also the legal system on what stalking looks like, what victims look like, and how we can actually better support them so that we're not just allowing people to cause harm to others without
Right.
actually having some kind of fix.
I agree. And I think, like you said something earlier, Shalon, you said, like, having to make the decision to fight back. And it's like sometimes when you fight back, then it's like, oh, she's okay. And like, you're not really a victim. Just because I'm fighting back, I can't, like, you strike and I put my hands up like this, or I put them down, right? Or I put them up like this. And I commend you for fighting back. And just because you were fighting back does not mean that you were not victim, like you weren't a victim. Because I think that people think
mhm,
that, like, oh, well, it's a back and forth thing. No, I must fight back. I have to do something to protect myself, protect my business. but I'm still being victimized, right? I'm still a victim of this circumstance, you know? So,
Right, right. Um, yeah. Oh my goodness, it just is so much thinking about it. Um, Yeah, so just going back to the different strategies, the ways in which they show up. I don't know if you guys can think of anything I haven't mentioned in terms of the surveillance or the life invasion, the interference or the intimidation, but just to clarify too, that a smear campaign is a part of stalking.
absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep. It damages and attacks your reputation. I think the smear campaign that comes up for me is the example that you gave of being um, unfairly attacked on Google. I I was mortified, you know. So yeah, there definitely are different ways that you can be stalked, attacked, um, smeared, and and
mhm.
and and that, you know, could impact your business in a way that people won't even, if it's not someone who even if they didn't grow up with you, if someone's just looking for a therapist, um, and that's underneath your Google, you're impacted by it underneath your
Right.
Google review. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. To me, that is the life interference and also the intimidation, right? Because if you show up to my place of business repeatedly, and you're bringing up someone that you know I am no contact with, and then when I, explain on my social media or via speaking out what this behavior is, when I identify this behavioral pattern as abusive, as narcissistic, as pathological, as highly manipulative. I mean, to get several, um, more than five adult professionals to show up to someone's place of business, especially considering what we do, you have to be very manipulative. So me laying out that pathology is just explaining the behavior. And
Right.
I also fear like that is the typical kind of Darvel thing to repeatedly target my business, the business, the logo, my reputation, to literally attack me repeatedly at work. And then when I lay out how this is pathological behavior, to say something like, well, if you're saying someone's an abuser and you're a licensed professional, that kind of carries more weight. How else am I, I'm being targeted in all these different ways. I need to lay out and explain and understand for myself what this behavioral pattern means. This is not a simple a couple of people that don't like each other. People cannot like each other all the time, all day, and people just go about their separate lives. Repeatedly targeting community, places, things that are important to someone is
For a
not
consistent period of time. There is some pathology behind it. And as a clinician, it's almost impossible for anyone to expect you to not look at the world from a clinical perspective. Okay.
right.
I'm sorry.
Right.
I am probably always, you know, if I speak to you for a period of time, I'm going to probably be analyzing some stuff, whether for good
That
or
is
for
our
bad.
lens for understanding the world, and
Yes.
people, the ways in which we've been trained,
Right.
regardless of what field you are, influences how you see and experience the world.
Right.
So but it also is that double bind thing, that like antagonize, sending all these people to my job, and then when I say this is what the pathology is. And to me, uh, women psychopaths are not, psychopaths in general are not necessarily violent, murderous people. They are highly manipulative, they have low empathy or no empathy, and they take joy in harming others. To me, there's no way that you stalk or harm someone to this level for 2 years and 9 months and you don't get joy from it. So maybe, and not like I'm an expert in understanding human behavior or like I'm an expert in understanding narcissism. I am. We are. So and this is what I walk my clients through, being trauma informed and a trauma um practitioner. We have to be able to identify all the ways in which abuse and harm shows up, both interpersonally and in systems. So we literally have education, expertise, and literally give trainings on these kinds of things. So it's hard to not identify that when it is happening to you. And it is very feels very Twilight Zoney to
Hmm.
literally be an expert, to
Yeah.
literally tell the story in real time of harm you're experiencing, for an abuser to say you're mentally ill or you have this issue, and for people to believe that. it's it's
Right.
so disconcerting. And but it happens to a lot of people. And the position you occupy or the job you have doesn't
Hmm.
prevent any of us from being harmed
No.
or experiencing abuse in relationships.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Great. So I think we can agree that stalking, because it is a pattern of behaviors, we're not talking about a one message sent or one call or one text. We are talking about repeatedly trying to interact with someone that you know does not want to interact with you over a period of time, understanding that there's no way for you to get to this person, so you send other people, and other people that they won't know are associated with you. It's an intentional act. And then there's all these other little provocations behind the scenes that take place. I say, oh, these are my favorite people at my Pilates studio. And then you're best friends with these people. It just is,
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
um if not abuser like, why so abuser like, that the your world getting smaller and smaller, and you being more and more isolated and having less and less people that you trust and that you feel like are neutral and safe people.
Right. Right.
That there's no way that behavioral patterns are accidental.
No.
um
No. It's all connected. It's all connected. Um, Narcissistic, all of those attributes, to shrink your world, to isolate you, to manipulate others, to affect others' view and change in feelings and how they feel about you. Um, that that feels very heavy and traumatic and like a battle to to fight up against. And so one can see how you wouldn't have a conversation and say, hey, I don't want to talk to you, I don't want us to be friends. You would just quietly or abruptly remove yourself from that person's life who shows up that way, and then they go, like you said, around and find ways to still show up and stalk you and surveil you on social media. So yeah.
Right. Um, so I just think that you guys are perfect people to have this conversation with, because
Hmm.
you are some of the people that knew what to do to be supportive. You showed
Thank
up, you listened, you held space, you were affirming, you were validating. Um, you just were really good, strong, solid supports. Other people that I had friendships with or relationships with, and also, I understand that this went on so long and was so much back and forth. I do not blame people for wanting to remove themselves, but I lost a lot of friends. A lot of people removed themselves from my social media. Um,
right.
a lot of people removed themselves from group chats I was in, particularly after there were those videos made. I saw those videos and thought,
Right.
well, because I know the facts and also I know myself and this other individual. So I saw the videos and thought, oh, this is kind of a mess. There's so many things that are easily not seen as true in this. And then the more isolation I got on social media, it felt very scarlet lettery. And I thought, and then people were interacting with me weird. Um, and I thought, oh, it settled in that people believe this. People believe it, or at minimum, people are unsure. And
Right.
so someone
Right.
who's enjoyed a good reputation, because I've done the same work in the same community for since I was 16, now having to deal with that reputation being at at best kind of murky.
Hmm.
And I don't think it's coincidental that that is by someone who would always make commentary. Oh, everybody likes you. Oh, everybody supports you. Oh, you know everybody. Like, these kinds of things are related. So when we see these kinds of behavioral patterns in people, it's good to trust and to know that those behavioral patterns are indicative of a personality that might be jealous, might be insecure, might not be supportive of you. And the undercurrent of that presents itself more over time if you achieve more, or if you want to just really leave the relationship.
Right.
That is how abuse and harm works, or from what I've seen and experienced and what I've studied. So I just am really appreciative of you guys for being supportive.
Hmm.
Um, that was really protective to me, and you always felt really safe. And even now, having this conversation, I still feel safe and protected by you. Also, I just want you to know how much I appreciate that and appreciate your willingness to have conversation about what this experience was like and of what we saw, what we know. So thank you for that. You guys have anything you would like to say to anybody who's potentially navigating a situation like this, or how to be a supportive friend or community member or social worker?
The first thing that comes to mind for me is just safety. Safety is the number one thing. Like you have to prioritize your own safety because it could get really bad, regardless if it's social media, if it's in person, or whatever the case. So, I mean, you definitely want to make sure that you're documenting things. You want to make sure that, you're not, maybe changing your schedule and routine so that you're not just having the same maybe walking path and the person can follow you or whatever the case. And then also on social media, like protecting your peace, right? So if the person is per persistently reaching out to you or doing things to damage you, like maybe you might need a break from social media. Maybe you may need to remove some people. I mean, it's unfortunate because we are social beings, but at the same time, like, you have to prioritize your own well-being before you can even be a part of a community. So I definitely think, trying to do some of those things, and obviously as social workers, the advocacy, the policy, like we definitely need to be doing a lot of work on that end of things. But then also on a micro level, on the one-on-one level, just supporting our clients the best way that we can, validating their experiences, you know, like Tanya and I did for you. Because you're right, like people will lose their community, but we want to make sure that we're supporting our clients to the best of our ability. So I think those are the major takeaways for, what we should be doing as clinicians.
I don't think I got anything to add to that other than I agree wholeheartedly. I co-sign what you're saying. Um, Safety was a theme that came up when you were talking. I know you needed to feel safe. I felt um, activated, like in a protective mode to protect you. And just if I had to give any feedback to anyone who's experiencing anything like this or needing to be present for someone who's enduring something like this, just to hold space, validate, listen. Um, um, it's important for the person to hear and to know that you're being heard and that they hear you and you hear them and that what they're seeing is real. They're not crazy. Try to come up with a concrete plan to protect the person and help the person protect themselves. And I think that's it. Just safety. Safety is the theme and the takeaway from it.
Right, right. Thank you guys for that. So also just to highlight before we get going, how pervasive this is. I think the statistics say 1 in 3 women will be stalked in their lifetime. 1 in 5 men will be stalked in their lifetime. My particular experience went on for 2 years and 9 months, but the average length of stalking is 2 years. So
Jesus.
it's a very substantial, pervasive
Hmm.
issue. And then there's all the intersectionality. So like in issues of domestic violence, people from our community, Black and Brown women, are so much more likely to die from a domestic violence relationship that turns into stalking. I forget exactly what the statistic is, but it is, oh, it's the number 1 killer of Black and Brown women. Domestic violence and stalking is a part of that. So it's very important that we're paying attention,
Right.
that we know resources that are available, that we're supporting people, and that when people are talking about harm that they've experienced, statistically speaking, people experience much more harm than what they report. So anybody
Right.
who's making a claim of harm should just be validated and supported.
Hmm.
So I think those things are important. Things that have been helpful to me navigating this are, of course, my own therapist and provider. I did EMDR therapy for this too in the beginning. And then some of the resources that were affirming is for Dr. Ramani's work. Dr. Ramani, I think her last name is Dervasala. I'm not sure how to say it, but Dr. Ramani, everybody knows Dr. Ramani. Um, there's a social worker in Connecticut, Dr. Cochiola. I think her Instagram is Dr. Cochiola Coercive Control. She talks all about coercive control. She has a TED talk on coercive control. Coercive control is like the overarching, you know, behavioral patterns of any person who's abusive. I like Dr. Peter Salerno's work. He has a lot of work around working with or understanding disordered personalities that is really helpful. And I really love the Spark website, which is stalkingawareness.org. Um, any other resources or supports or anything important to say before we get going?
So I found a few too. There's the Victim Connect Resource Center. It's victimconnect.org. That's definitely a good resource for people who are specifically being stalked or harassed. There's the National Domestic Violence Hotline, which is 1-800-799-7233. You mentioned the Stalking Resource Center, and then also like, especially for people who aren't in private practice, right? And actually have or are a student or have a HR department, it would be wonderful to actually report some of those things just so that you're you're not doing it alone. You're not,
Mhm.
just allowing your safety to be at risk, especially when you're in neutral territory, which is not your home. So
Mhm.
I think those are some other additional great resources.
Right, right. That brings up another point is I forget exactly what the statistic is, but stalking survivors are very likely to lose their job because of the stalking they experience. So if I didn't have this private practice and work for myself, I probably would not have a job. So yeah.
Personally
Um,
experienced that. But thankfully, I didn't lose my job. And this was early on in my early 20s, a
right,
stalker.
right, right. It's much more common than people think. So we really have to be
It
vigilant and
really is.
pay attention. Yeah.
It really is.
Um, Well, thank you guys again for both for being here. I appreciate you so much. And
My
I'll make
pleasure.
sure to share your contact information in the notes of the show so people can get in contact with either one of you if they want to um,
Absolutely.
explore services with either one of your great practices.
Well,
Thank you,
thanks for
ladies.
having us.
Yes, thank you so much.
Happy Saturday, guys. Take good care.